I grew up in a Catholic household and I attended Catholic school from kindergarten through high school. My parents are from El Salvador and they came to America about in their 20s. And as most immigrants, or some of us, our parents try and do that the best they could. Um, they instilled faith in me. They sent me to church every week and they encouraged me to be complete in all the sacraments. But even then, I was filled with questions. I didn't know who God was really. I just remember attending and sitting in those classrooms, looking at religious paintings of Jesus on the wall and thinking, how do I even know this is real? Why should I follow this just because someone's telling me to follow it? The weight of those questions stayed with me for years. My faith felt more like a checklist. Go to church, go to confession, kneel and pray. I did what I was supposed to do, but it didn't feel personal. I was just going through the motions. By that time, I graduated high school. I made up my mind. I wanted nothing to do with the church. I had been going for so long, felt very forced. I felt that I was being talked to, not taught to. And over the next, 10 or so years after turning 18 to about 30, I moved out, I lived on my own, and I thought I knew it all. I threw myself into what I thought was a journey of self-discovery. During middle and high school at this time too, I wasn't athletic, I was bullied, I was made fun of, I wasn't the cool kid, I wasn't a part of them, and that made me really, really bitter and angry. And that kind of stuck with me for a while. Fortunately, during that time, my dad took me to see a Golden Glove boxer, and that built up a lot of confidence. I started going to the gym with my friends, and that was my escape. So after leaving the church and not wanting to go back and diving into fitness, I had lost about 30 to 40 pounds, and I started working as a sales training manager. And I felt like finally I could take control of my life. I was making all this money. I was able to buy things that I couldn't buy before. And that's what I thought healthy was like. I started getting into more of the vanity of it all. Fitness became more of a mask. It became of a tool of vanity. So I wasn't working out for health anymore. I was working out to prove something. I wanted to be the person that the world would look up to because for so long I had felt overlooked. So as I became stronger in my body, my soul weakened. And in my mid-20s, I was deep into partying, to drinking, to drugs. I would go out. I was even into going to, I had gone to Vegas about 9 times in a year because of a breakup. And those things led to me being arrested a couple times, being sent in the hospital due to alcohol overdose. But I thought I was living the life. I thought I was showing off and doing the things that you should be doing as a guy, living in the world, going out on weekends, being with people I shouldn't be with, hanging out with people I shouldn't be hanging out with. And that only led to heartbreak. That led to heartbreak of others, led to heartbreak over myself. I was hurting my family, my parents, my brother. And, I thought just being fit would make up for happiness, but it didn't. It only covered up how truly empty I felt inside. The harder I tried to look good, the more miserable I really became. So by that time, I was about 27 and I couldn't stick to what I thought was healthy anymore. I couldn't stick to my workout plans. The enemy definitely used fitness as an opportunity to pull me away from God. And that's so true. And for some of you guys who are going through those type of journey, just know that you can't do it without the Lord. And it wasn't until, I met Jesus that I realized why fitness had become my idol. And I was serving myself and not God. Back in 2020, God stepped in and my wife and I had taken a trip to Colorado. One night after a storm, we had a night together and I had a dream. And in that dream, it was unlike any other experience. I was in our hotel room in this dream. But suddenly everything in the room became bright white, and the images of Jesus that I had seen growing up in Catholic school was all over the walls. It was incredible. It was like if you could remember the movie Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and the guy got really small and everything around him was enormous. That's exactly how I felt. It was the presence of Jesus that filled the space. And the light became even more present in that room. It became warm and it swallowed everything that didn't need to be in that room. And I didn't need to see Jesus physically to know that he was there. The joy and the peace that I felt was an overwhelming comfort. I couldn't put into words, but when I woke up, I was in tears. Tears of joy for having experienced his presence and tears of sadness because I didn't want him to end. As time went on, I was in my late 20s and it was really hard to figure out how to keep myself accountable. And during this time, I had left the training space. I wanted to start working for myself at this time. I had been in the industry for about 11-ish years. I was at LA Fitness, I was at Barry's Boot Camp, I was instructing here, I was a manager over there, and it was unfulfilling. So we had a mutual friend, and say my now wife and I have a mutual friend at the time, before I knew who she was. She said, hey, you should go to Elevate and you should start training your clients there. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to leave. It's too far away. I was living in Irvine. Elevate was at Huntington Beach. Well, God decided, hey, Mark, you need to move. So I moved to Fountain Valley, which was close to Huntington Beach, met Kat for the first time, didn't know who she was, didn't know anything about the gym, and brought my business there. I left the corporate world, brought my clients from the corporate side that wanted to stay with me, and started working at Elevate. During this time, I was in a relationship, Kat was in a relationship. We were friendly, but that was about it. With time, and time had gone on, we had got a little bit closer, discussed our troubles in our relationship, got to know each other, and we really understood how to be friends. And during this friendship, we really realized how much the other person cared, how the other person treated the individual that they were in the relationship with. And that was a sense of getting to know each other when you're first starting to date without having to getting to know each other when you first started to date. So it was incredible to see how beautiful she was, and looking back at it now. And so as time went on, she asked me to be her business partner. I reluctantly said, and let me think about it, because knowing what I knew at the time, helping someone open up a gym back when I was about 22, I had no plans to want to open up the gym. And I had just left the corporate world to want to start working for myself. So then being asked to be someone's business partner, again, I didn't want to do it. But I knew it was an opportunity for me to be a part of, and so about 2 weeks went by and I said yes. During that time of saying yes, we got to know each other even further, and to be frank, we started being business partners first, then we had the relationship second. So if anyone was thinking about, hey, were they in the relationship and then we became business partners? No, the business came first. I started to like her, kind of stepped over the line. She didn't like that. She then stepped over the line. We dated. First date was Valentine's Day, and I wrote in my notes that I was going to marry this woman. So our very first date, I knew that was going to happen. So this was about 2020. COVID had happened, and God stepped in my life. Kat and I went to Colorado, and one night after a storm, I had a dream out there. And it was more of a vision. It was unlike anything I've ever experienced in a dream. I was in a hotel room, but suddenly everything in the room disappeared. The walls became bright white, and the images of Jesus that I had seen growing up in Catholic school appeared on the wall. It was like the movie Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, where the guy became really small, and there was a big dog, and he was in the blazed grass, and that's what it was. But it was the presence of Jesus that was filling up the space. The light became very bright, the light was warm, and it swallowed up everything in the room. I didn't need to see him to physically know that he was there, that he was present. And the joy, the peace, the overwhelming comfort, I can't put it into words. When I woke up, I was in tears. Tears of joy for having experienced his presence, and tears of sadness because I didn't want it to end. Being present with the Lord puts a target on your back. And during this time, there was a lot of spiritual warfare that our marriage had taken. So this is 2021. We're newly married, and we encountered a turning point, and it didn't get any easier when you turn yourself towards Christ. But I got baptized, but the enemy decided to go at us very, very hard. My wife and I faced deep struggles in our marriage. We were arguing because of the business. We would hurt each other. And there were just moments where it felt like we were on the verge of falling apart. It felt like we were constantly under attack. We sought counseling and therapy. We kept fighting, but we kept finding light at the end. Knowing that Jesus was always at the center, we started to have healing moments. Knowing that the love of Christ taught us how to forgive each other. And that's really important, how to communicate and how to keep pushing forward even when it felt impossible. We came out of it much stronger and on the other side, not because of anything we did, but because of the grace and healing power of God. Looking back, God was preparing us, and I realized I had been holding back from God. I hadn't fully surrendered everything. I had allowed him into certain areas of my life, but not all. That's when I prayed and asked him what he wanted me to do. God put the word restore on my heart. And I looked up what restore was in the Bible. In Jeremiah 30:17 says, "But I will restore you to health and heal your wounds, declares the Lord." And that's when everything started to shift. I realized that my body is a temple to the Lord. And I had treated it like it wasn't. I was treating it as an idol for myself. I had, again, stopped working out. I was focusing on vanity, but then I started working out to glorify God. I had then launched a men's faith and fitness class, teaching others about health, that it isn't just physical, but it was very spiritual. It's not about looking good, it's about honoring God with the body he has given us. Today, my wife and I lead a very successful gym. We are focusing on putting our faith into the gym, making sure that Christ is at the center of it, because we need to be a reflection of Christ. We lead with a servant attitude, and we lead with love. We lead in a place where people who don't know who Christ is, we want to open our arms to them, we want to pray for them, and we just want to invite them to know who he is even further. Because God has blessed us with so much, we're doing this because this is his story.